Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Baby Boomer Investing Show. Here we are again with another great episode. I am very, very excited to, well, of course, you all know my brother Ron. He's the host, and we have Mayor
Statman.
Statman with us today. And we're going to be discussing the third generation of behavioral finance. I'm going to let my brother come in now and introduce Mayor, and we can go from there.
Yeah, you can put up the first slide, Kath. Just get
Okay,
good.
there we go.
Okay. So this is our 40th episode. So we've got a lot of shows, and it's our fourth one on retirement happiness. And the thing that's come in the other three shows that this one basically reinforces, and it's really great. The keys to retirement happiness are health, wealth, and then there's a third thing that basically is, we've called it purpose in the past, but in Mayor's book it's called well-being. It's the same general idea. So we can't control much about our health. Our wealth is what it is when we're at our age group. But the well-being is something that we can control. And Mayor gives us a lot of help in his book about how to have well-being. So the next slide, Kath, Mayor Statman is a celebrity, and I've known him for a long time. He's an author. He's a teacher. He's a speaker. So he's a professor at Santa Clara University. And his passion has more recently been directed towards behavioral finance. So that's what his more recent books are about. And I'll just point out one of them that I really think is great if you have an interest in his new book, but also the other one is about what investors really want, which is a fun and an informational read. So what we're going to do is on the next slide, Kath, this is our agenda. We're going to do an overview and ask Mayor to tell us about the three stages of behavioral finance, and we're in episode 3 now, and then have a basic overview, and then we're going to go into 6 of the 14 chapters in the book, and we may not cover all 6, but we can start at the high level, and then we're going to have some time, I think, to go into individual chapters and have Mayor tell us about his thoughts on these various topics. So that the bullets on the left are what we're going to try to cover, and then the ones on the right are if we have time, and we'll see if we do. So with that, Mayor, I'd like you to tell us about the stages of behavioral finance and how we've evolved through time on this slide. So we have 3 generations of behavioral finance. The early generations basically told us that we were all nuts, that we were loaded with biases and didn't know what the heck we were doing. So so that's evolved. Tell us about how that's working today.
Well, thank you, Ron, and thank you, Kathy. I'm delighted to be with you and with listeners. So first, I've been working on finance and behavioral finance for decades now, since the very beginning of the 1980s. I begin with standard finance, which is what I studied in my graduate studies at the Hebrew University. And according to standard finance, we are rational. And rational people care only about wealth, about maximizing wealth. And they are immune to any cognitive or emotional errors on their way to achieving that wealth. The first generation of behavioral finance turned that and said, no, people are not rational. People are irrational, beset by all kinds of cognitive and emotional errors. They are overconfident. They are swayed by regret too much. And so while they are trying to maximize their wealth, they are impeded from doing so by those cognitive and emotional errors. For example, irrational people trade too much, and we know that trading does not add to wealth, it detracts from it. And so that was where we were sometime in the 80s. As I was thinking about that, and of course, I did my fair share of work in this first generation of behavioral finance, but as I was thinking about it, something, of course, did not seem right. Uh, we are not stupid, we are not irrational. Um, we are often ignorant, we are often stupid, but we are intelligent people and we can learn, increasing the ratio of knowledge to ignorance, and we can increase the ratio of smart to stupid. And so in the second generation of behavioral finance, I describe people as normal, people like you and me and the people who are listening to us, neither rational nor irrational. And I said that people care not just about wealth, people care about utilitarian benefits, which is wealth. We care about income and wealth, sure, but we also care about expressive and emotional benefits. And so when we buy a car, we don't just buy it for utilitarian features like gas mileage, but we also want a style and we want pizzazz and we want a prestige. Uh, and when we invest, some of us are socially responsible investors, and those of us who are often willing to give up some utilitarian benefits, some of their returns, to be true to their values. And then I expanded it further, and I said, in the end, when we buy a car or when we invest, what we care about is life well-being. Financial well-being is a prerequisite, underlies life well-being. We cannot be poor and enjoy high well-being, high life well-being. But being rich is not sufficient for high well-being. And well-being has many domains, as you could see in an earlier slide. It has to do with family, of course, and it has to do with friends, and it has to do with health and with work and religion and society. I mean, just look at the politics and how miserable it makes all of us, however we vote. And so what I'm trying to do really is make finance real, to connect it to real life and expand that circle of finance to include everything that really matters, everything that adds to our well-being or takes away from it.
Got it. So, Merrick, a couple of things. I don't know if you know Mike Edisis, but he's a really smart man who just wrote an article in Advisor Perspectives, and he shocks you by saying modern portfolio theory is all wrong. And I think this is right in line with your thing. He goes, nobody really sits down and says, I want to optimize my rate of return for the risk I'm taking. That doesn't happen. What investors really do is they say, I want to achieve this objective. I want to, not lose money. I want to be able to buy this car. I want to be able to do this and that. That's the real fact about how investors behave. And the other thing I'll say about well-being, one of our shows was Retirement, Heaven or Hell. And this fellow Mike Drack wrote a book, and he speaks about how when he retired, he was forced into retirement, and he saw what his mother did, and he thought, well, that's what you do. You don't do anything. You sit around and watch TV and be a vegetable. And he said that was hell for me. For my mother, that was heaven. And, and I think that speaks to the many dimensions that you go into in your book, Mayor, about what might be somebody's retirement hell is not well-being. Yeah, it's not well-being, but there's a heaven, and you need to know how to achieve it. So I just add that to your thoughts.
Well, sure. And so it is really important to notice those differences. And so when advisors, for example, talk with clients, it's really is important to figure out what it is that clients want.
Yeah.
And if you told me I have enough money to take as many trips on boats around the world, I would say yes, I can, but
Yeah,
about 3 or 5 maximum days in, I would be jumping overboard because
sure.
it is just not for me. And so you really have to figure out what brings you joy. If you have enough money, then the question is, how do you spend it? And one of my joys in spending it is really about spending it on my family, spending it on my children, helping my children when they need it. That is when they are young and just starting in life. And to charity, to our university, to the National Alliance on mental illness, which is dear to the hearts of my wife and me. And so it is really very important. And coming back to the issue of portfolios, uh, I like to think about portfolios in terms of the two goals we have. I like to say with obvious exaggeration that we want two things in life. One is not to be poor, and the other is to be rich. And so we divide our portfolios. I divide my portfolio accordingly. That is, I have enough in the downside protection, bonds, and the like, such that I will not be ever poor. And then I have stocks that gives me a chance to be rich. And rich here, I'm not talking about becoming a billionaire. I'm talking really about what it is that you aspire to. And so for me, uh, having more means that I can give more. I can enjoy some of it myself. I fly now. When I fly over ocean, I fly business class. I pay those outrageous prices because that
Because
brings
you
me
can, sure.
joy. I can, and as a friend of mine says, if you fly coach, your son-in-law will fly first class, and so you better take care of yourself, but then take care of others. And it kind of depends again on what it is that matters to you. Can I buy a second home? Sure. But I have enough trouble with one home, with all the maintenance and so on. Why would I want to double my trouble? I don't. So I have just one house, and I feel fine. I don't really like to be on a boat, so I have no yacht, and I cannot afford a yacht. That is also true.
Yeah.
Uh, but again, what I'm thinking about, once we have that foundation of financial well-being, what is this all about? It has to do with life, and it has to do with life well-being, and that is really what I'm thinking about, and that is what I'm trying to maximize, if you can call it that.
Got it. Well, I
So,
add one thing in there just to make sure we cover all of our audience. So there is a retirement crisis in the United States, and the number that really blows me away, 70% of baby boomers have saved less than $300,000. So that financial well-being is just not in the cards for most baby boomers. But I think the mental well-being, the sort of um, happiness, is certainly affected by wealth, but it's not the only thing. And I think that's part of what you're talking about here too, Meir.
It is, but let me also say that people in finance think that $300,000 is pennies. It is not. And people who earn relatively little, median income or below that, have learned to be very smart in how they save and spend.
Exactly.
And
That's my
so
point. Yep.
people can be perfectly happy, even with living on Social Security. Uh,
Yes.
that is, they just find pleasure in those things that bring them joy.
You
And
got it. Yep.
there is such a thing as family,
Hmm.
we both contribute to family, and family contributes to us. And so, there is such a thing as the sandwich generation, which means that we don't abandon our elderly parents, and we don't abandon our kids, even adult kids, uh, who are either disabled or have some bad luck in employment and so on. And so we we manage. So in this sense, we don't really have a crisis. Uh, what we have is, of course, there are people who are truly poor. I'm not diminishing that. God knows we have people who are unhoused.
Yeah,
But
some boomers actually have negative net worth, so that's
yeah,
certainly there. Yeah.
but I'm talking about people who are above that, people who have worked, saved a bit or none, have Social Security, have perhaps hopefully a paid off house, and so on. They live in ways that those of us who have more might think of as something that is not something that we would have wished on ourselves, but it really is not bad as far as they're concerned. And if you look at it as far as we should be concerned.
Right. So, Kathy, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to ask now. I now realize that I'm a novice to this, so I'm the baby boomer. I'm the one that needs the help. And what I'm hearing you say, Meir, which is very interesting, I'm hearing you say that um, if you whatever money you have, no matter what it is, whether you're on Social Security or you have a lot, if you use it, if the behavior you have towards your money and you use it wisely, that will give you well-being. Particularly if you find someone, let's say in your network of friends, they may need some help. And if you're in a position to be able to help them, then you help them. If you're not in a position to be able to help them, then you can be there to listen. So there's certain elements of that we can contribute to each other in terms of well-being. So the behavior behind our financial situation is what I'm hearing you say is important. How do we use the money we have? How do we help others? How do we contribute to the well-being of others, which in turn gives us joy? Is that what you're saying? That's what I'm hearing you say.
That is a good summary of what I'm saying and what I think. And I know people who say, if I have to get from one point to another and my car is not available, I order an Uber. It might
Sure.
cost $50. Big deal. But $50 is big money for many people, and they will wait until a neighbor is going to give them a ride, and so they treat uh, time and money differently from those of us who have more and are not necessarily enjoying lower well-being. They just live with different notions of what brings them joy and what it is that they can afford. And they don't think, God, I just wish I had enough to order an Uber every time I need.
Sure.
Any more than I think, God, wouldn't it be nice if I had a private plane and
Yeah.
waiting for me whenever I want to go to New York? Well, I slog through the terminal like most of us, and occasion treat myself to business class. But I don't think that I've ever been on a private plane. And gee, would it be nice?
Sure.
But it's not something that it takes up much time in my
Right.
thinking.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I love being able to contribute to other people's well-being and have that contributing mindset. So I'm always aware I can't pass a we have a lot of vets, homeless vets in the area that I live in. And when I see them, especially if they have a dog they're taking care of, I cannot not give them something. Now, am I in a position to be able to do that? Not really, but I do, because I realize that to them, that dollar or that $5 is like $1,000 to them.
Sure.
So they appreciate it and are grateful for it much more so than anything else. So that makes me feel good. And then I walk away feeling I did something good. And that
Absolutely.
contributes to my well-being.
Absolutely. And you know, even for very wealthy people, there are people who have many billions, and yet they work to get another billion.
We have a professor friend who says
true.
rich people have a disease. He says
Well,
no matter how rich they are, they want to be as rich as the next richer guy. So I think it's
there are
real.
two things. One, kind of the marginal benefit, as we economists call it, of having an extra $1 billion. When it is from 11 to 12, it brings you less incremental joy than it brought you from 10 to 11.
Sure.
And then of course is the second question of what it is for. And here I come back to those utilitarian, expressive, and emotional benefits. For all of us, not just for the very wealthy, we care not just about our income and wealth, but how we compare to others that we consider in our social comparison group. And people with billions do not compare themselves to Meir Statman. They compare themselves to
Bill Gates,
to Ron Sears,
no.
And the like, and of course, I wouldn't mention name, but I surely do not envy people who have a ton more money than I do.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Amen. That is absolutely correct. And I don't want to take over your show here.
Well, let's get back to Meir's book, Kathy. Can you do the next slide?
All right. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about why you wrote the book, what you'd like readers to come away with. That's on the next slide. Those are just general topics. This is more. This is you, Meir. Tell us what you hope people will come away with when they take the time to read your book, and they should read it.
That what people what I think of is that well-being is composed of many domains, and we can think about it as a portfolio. Now we need money. We need that financial domain, because it is not just that money adds to our well-being, as I mentioned before, but you need money to support the family. You need money to pay physicians and hospitals. You need money even for friendship. You know, that is, you don't want to be the one who cannot join friends at a restaurant because you just cannot afford it. You need money even for religion. You don't want to go to the church and be the one who contributes nothing because you have nothing to contribute in money terms. And so I think of well-being as a portfolio. Some stocks in a portfolio do extremely well. Some of them have negative returns, but we look at the whole and we look at it properly. And when I think about my well-being and that of others, I know that not all my domains are perfect. I have injuries in some of my domains. In particular, we have an older daughter who is living with bipolar illness. She is doing well now, but it was not always the case, and it was very hard on all of us, especially on her. But when I look at it now, she's a wonderful, wonderful woman. She ends every conversation by saying, "I love you." We are fortunate in the domain of family because her younger sister loves and cares for her. And we are fortunate in the domain of finances because we have ample finances, so we are able to support her without impinging, constraining our own budget. So I know that we are lucky in terms of this overall portfolio and in terms of that overall life well-being that we are enjoying. And so what I am saying is that if people look at their lives, they are more likely than not find that there is one or more domain where they have injuries. And what I do, is use medicine from one domain, like finances, say, to heal in some way or alleviate pain in another domain. And as we talked earlier, we not only transfer within our own portfolio, but we contribute to other people's portfolios. And the odd and touching thing is that when you disclose to people your pain, however painful it is to actually come forward and disclose it, they come forward and tell you about theirs. And you comfort them and they comfort you. You express empathy and they express empathy. And sometimes there is actual help. It might be in money, it might be in advice. And so when someone I know years ago, when their son had a psychotic break, they were as shocked and bewildered as we were. I invited them to come to our home, and Nava and I sat with them and we explained what we have learned. We've shared what we have learned. We, of course, expressed empathy. And so we help them in that way. And that person is a financial advisor. And so now many of his clients are people who either live with mental illness or have mental illness in their families. And all of that, of course, relate back to money. That is, you have to make provisions for a disabled child, for example. And so it is that, again, this combination of health and money that contributes to well-being. That really is one of the lessons that I've learned, because in decades ago, especially since Nava and I were accused of being the reason for our daughter's Barbara illness.
Yeah, by the way, all this stuff is in your book, Meir, which I think is great. So you don't just preach to your reader; you share your own experiences, which I think is
and I share the experiences of many people who are coming forward and telling about people, people who have lost a child to cancer or accident. What can be worse than that?
Sure.
But we learn that life must go on. That is, there are other kids who we have to help, and there are, in our own lives, and so we have to figure out a way to not maximize, because that kind of sounds mercenary, but just improve our well-being given the circumstances. We are, even those of us who exercise every day and eat all the healthy foods, we are going to die someday, even if it is when we reach 150, and it is likely that we are going to be ill before that. And we just have to figure out how to make the best of what we have throughout life.
That's excellent. So we want to drill down to some of the individual chapters, and the next one is on. I think we may have already covered this, but if you'd like to just talk about the chapter, Meir, about on financial capital underlying, I think maybe said that three times now, but
I think it is really important to have sufficient finances. It is, you know, when you ask people what is really important in life, they'll say things like, well, what's most important is family. What's most important is friends, relationships. And I say, well, that's very nice, but you need money for that. and so
Sure.
people think that if they just mention money, it would feel as if they are greedy people who care only about money. No, they don't care just about money. I don't care just about money, but I know that all of those other things would be moot if I had no money to support my family and my health and the rest of what takes to have a life.
Sure. You say in your book that you have your students prioritize like a list of 10 things they want to do. And then you show how revealing that is. So that it's not, I think this is the case that,
Yeah.
that when you
Yeah.
rank order those 10 things, each individual has their own ranking.
Well, right. So I give them a list of things like buying the things I want and taking care of the poor, helping my kids grow, having a high social status, and so on. I give them that list alphabetically, and I ask them to order it according to what is important to them,
That's cool.
and share it with classmates and with me, and then classmates comment on that as well, and so they get into a conversation. And so, you know, one student, one woman wrote, 15 years ago, I would have said that what is important to me is buying the things I want. But now I have a child, and that son is the center of my life. Indeed, that really is what happens to all of us. That is eventually we realize that we need money, but that is not the only thing.
You remind me to talk about, Meir, you invited me to speak to one of your classes years ago. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah, and I had this technology that was a better way to figure out if the investment manager was adding value or not. And you were kind enough to let me tell your class about it. And I just remember this, the feedback from your class was, how do I get rich using your stuff?
Yes, when people come, in fact, I ask them at the beginning, what do you expect to get out of the class?
Yeah.
It's an investments class. So what I want to beat the market. I want to be rich and so on. And I tell them, there are ways to get rich or to try to get rich quick, or get rich slowly. And I'm one of those who got rich, but got rich slowly. And, you can say that. I can say that being in my 70s, but they are in their 20s and 30s. They don't really want to hear about what will happen when they are 70.
You're right.
They want it now, and they can see their friends. Remember, this is the social comparison group, and they invested, some of them, in Bitcoin, and they bought it low and they sold it high, and not just sold it high and made a 100% profit, but made enough money to be able not just to put a down payment on a house, but to buy a house for cash.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah, they see that. That's right.
So as I said, we want two things. One is not to be poor, and the other is to be rich. And I empathize with that because my aspirations are also high, and surely they were much higher than my situation when I was a young man.
Sure.
And so I empathize with that, and I try to guide them to do the right thing rather than say money is not important and all of that nonsense.
Right.
Blah,
Yeah.
blah.
Well,
Sure.
I would imagine that the insights that you got from these students, it was almost like an insight to their soul to know where are they looking at in the future. Is it money focused? Is it relationship focused? Where is it focused? And it seems as though now through the years you've come around and are saying to them and to everyone, it's good to focus on money, but it's more important to focus on relationships, but have the money in order to support the relationships.
That is a good way of saying that. Yes. So I teach them investment. I teach portfolio theory. I teach asset pricing. I teach market efficiency and all of that. But I also teach them about financial well-being and life well-being. And they get, so one student wrote, I'm about to be married. My fiance wants us to combine our finances, but I prefer to keep them separate. What do you think, Professor?
That's a tough one. That is tough.
That's very tough.
And it says that generally well-being is higher when we combine our finances, but I'm not a marriage counselor. I can tell them what we know generally, but I don't get into people's lives more than is reasonable in a relationship between a professor and a student.
Yeah.
So should we continue here now?
Yeah, actually, that fits right into this. So there's another. Well, Dave Loper is the fellow who had a name for not spending enough, and he called it sacrifice. And I think you write about that in your book too, Meir. About some people are pretty wealthy and they maybe don't see themselves as wealthy, or they feel that they can't spend it, and that really is sacrifice. So there is a balance that.
Yes, but we have to distinguish between two things. One is sacrificing in the sense that I can spend more on myself instead of just postponing it for later, fearing that I will run out of money. That is one thing, and it is important. But another really is the issue of how we got to have a good amount of money. And for most of us, it is not by starting a Google. Most of us are teachers and advisors and physicians and lawyers and everything in between. And we get to become what I call accidental wealthy people by saving good chunks of money, investing it, and having the self-control to prevent us from dipping into our capital. And so we are very good at that kind of psychological mechanism where we have money that is in the income mental account and the capital mental account. And we move money from the income mental account, say our salary, into our capital mental account, say 401k. And we take pride in being able to do that and never dip into capital, never move money from capital to income. The problem is when you get to be old and you are not working anymore, lots of people still cannot get rid of this notion that saving is good, spending is bad, irresponsible people spend. So, and I'm talking about myself. That is, it took me a while to say, as I did, look, there's no reason for me to be on the wait list for an upgrade to business class, which I don't get. And if I fly from California to Israel, it's a long flight. Why am I doing that? I'm going to buy business class tickets.
There you go.
It's not that I abandon my kids. It is not that I abandon the things that are dear to me in terms of contributing to others, but I can contribute to myself. Some people really find joy in misery.
That's why Dave called it sacrifice.
Whoa,
and he would slap his clients around and say, so, you should spend some of this.
Yeah. People, I heard it from a colleague. His mother loves opera. She loves music, but she's very frugal, so she buys the cheap tickets. He says, you can afford better tickets. No, she wouldn't. So what he does is he buys her the better tickets, and
Huh?
so he's going to get less in bequest. But who cares? He's doing perfectly well.
Right.
He cares
Yeah.
about the joy of his mother, and so many do that. Many adult children do that. They eventually get sick and tired, and they go to the house of their parents, and they have a contractor who tears down that shag carpeting they had since the 60s, and puts in contemporary one that is easier to clean and all of that. Uh, Despite the protestation of their parents, despite their claim that they are dipping into their own inheritance, and they say, good, that is
Right.
exactly what we intend to do.
Yeah, that's
Well,
cool.
Mayor, I think that a lot that happens with someone, let's say a parent that is living old school and doesn't really have the money. The kids get tired, and people around them get tired of hearing, "I can't afford it. Oh, that's just too much. I can't afford it." But my grandparents, I remember them being very, very frugal, and
Sure.
because they were forced to. But then when you come into this age right now, nobody wants to hear poor mouth. Nobody wants to hear that. So it's better to take care of yourself. Whatever money you have, use it wisely, and still be aware of the people that are around you that may need your help. And if you're in a position to be able to help, then do so. That's
Yes,
my two
yes,
cents.
yes. And Maimonides, who is a very deep Jewish philosopher of many decades ago, he had a notion of the ladder of charity. And at a high level, it is charity where the donor does not know who is the recipient, and the recipient does not know the identity of the donor. So there is no sense of shame,
Right.
pride
Right.
in that. And so people can contribute to their elderly parents who don't have the money. And parents, of course, contribute to their kids. And it's not easy. It's not easy for parents, for elderly parents, to receive help from their kids.
Mhm.
But sometimes this simply is a necessity, and doing it with tact, doing that with empathy, doing that not with a grudge, is exceedingly important for the well-being of themselves,
Right.
not only that of their parents.
Right. Okay, so now we're into the next slide, smart investing.
Well, as I said, we want two things. One is not to be poor, and the other is to be rich. And you can do that very smartly by investing in a very diversified bond fund and a very diversified stock fund, and let that money run. So I don't rebalance the portfolio, for example. I don't have an attitude towards risk. I have aspirations, uh, and uh, and so I leave my portfolio alone. Um, does it go down? Sure, many days it goes down by many thousands of dollars. What do? I shrug. If it goes up,
Oh well.
I shrug. Now,
Yeah.
it is true that I'm more likely to check my balance when I know that the market went up than when I know that the market went down. So there is such a thing as regret, and there is such a thing as the joy of just counting my gold coins. But I really say uh, what really is important are the things about well-being. And if I have my wealth minus some thousands of dollars, well, I still have more than enough to support my kids and family and of course myself, so that I can just calm down. And if I know that a colleague of mine has much more than me, for a moment it is painful, but then I say, "Hey, Mayor, you have enough to establish an
Exactly.
endowment at the
Right,
school.
right, yeah.
Calm down, Mayor. You are
Yeah,
doing fine."
and
No,
the question is, what is enough?
well,
Enough
yeah,
for
that's
some is very little. If you have a lot and you still don't have enough, what is enough? And don't you
well,
have to determine that yourself?
You
well,
have
the
to
fact, yeah,
determine it yourself. Yeah, you have to determine it yourself. Again, it's not entirely subjective. If you are very poor, it's not a matter of, well, I just live in a tent on the street and that is just fine. That's enough. No, it's not enough. Uh, but once you have reached a level where you have a house and you have food and you have
Exactly.
the rest of the necessities, then the question is, how do you build on that to enhance your life well-being beyond your financial well-being? And when I talk with people and I describe those parents who would not spend, they say, "You are describing my parents. What do I do?"
yeah,
And I say, find out what brings them joy. And it is a different thing for different people.
yes,
Hmm.
Uh,
that
Figure
was
out
that.
what
Yeah,
it is, and if they admit that this is what will bring them joy, but they still cannot get themselves to spend the money doing that, find the tricks to spend the money for them so they can enjoy it. Uh, and so, I quote a woman, a Chinese woman, who said that she goes with her mother to a store and they see something nice, and her mother kind of, you can see that her mother would have like that. And the daughter says, "I'll just buy it for you." And she says, "No, no, don't waste your money."
Hmm.
But then she goes to the store, she buys this item, she brings it back, and she
And
said,
yay,
the look on my
made her
mother's
happy.
face
Yeah,
made her
really
happy.
brings me more
I
happiness
get that.
than
yeah.
anything. Yeah, that is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Totally get that.
So I actually, we're going to need to wrap this up. We're approaching the 1 hour mark, but I have an opinion question for you, Mayor, that you can say you don't want to answer. But by most estimates, the U.S. stock market is really, really expensive right now. It's about any way you cut it. Do behavioral scientists have any explanation for that? Is there something about the way we behave that's blowing up this bubble? And if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. Just
Yeah, I
curious to
can,
know.
I can, I can answer it, although maybe not satisfactorily. I think that most people in behavioral finance, surely I would say, if you think the market is high, uh, and you think that it's now wise to sell all your stocks, take a cold shower until that sensation disappears.
Okay.
Uh, because I have learned, and all knowledgeable people have learned, and it's important to know that finance is not a philosophy, it is a science. And what the science of finance tells us is that we cannot tell when the market is high or low, which means leave it alone. Leave it alone. Don't touch your portfolio, because you're going to perhaps be happy that you sold high, but then you're going to wait, uh, when it reaches bottom and you say, "No, that's not the bottom, let me wait longer." And then the market goes higher, and then you are reluctant to get in because you'll have to admit that you were stupid not to buy at that price, and so on. Life is more than that. Okay, I pay no attention to my portfolio.
Okay.
I pay attention to my work, I pay attention to my family, I pay attention to my friends, I pay attention to whatever brings me joy, and tinkering with my portfolio is not one of them.
Okay. My question was a little different, but I'll go with that. So, Kath, I think before we come to the end of our hour, I'd like you to go to slide 12.
Oh, 12. Okay.
Yes. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to talk about buying the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, Kath, this is your part of the show, and Mary, I hope this is okay. But so, Kathy has something that is helpful for senior ladies. I don't want to say older ladies, senior mature ladies.
Women.
Mature women. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, see, I use the word ladies, and Kathy corrects me all the time. She goes, "It's women, it's not ladies."
It's women. You know why? Because an older lady makes it sound like an old lady, but a mature woman makes it sound strong.
Yeah.
Makes it sound strong.
Yeah. I know ladies, only women.
Yeah.
And I'm older than you, and I've learned it. So it's time for you to learn it, Ron.
Yeah, I know. I'm just slow. Sorry.
Yeah. I run the Golden Life community, and we have a dual solution for women over 50, women between 55 and 85 who want to be able to come together and for the well-being of each other. Like Meir said, if you share your story, if you share your passion, if you share what your feelings are with each other, that makes you feel better. That's a contribution to your own well-being. So I'm in total alignment with what Meir is talking about and what his book represents, because that's what our community is. For those of you that are women out there and you'd like to join the Golden Connections, that would be great. That's a virtual community for women worldwide over 55. And who knows, you may also be looking for housing. And if that's the case and you're single, widowed, or divorced, and you're trying to find a location, this may be something that's of interest to you. So I'll put a link in the chat area for everyone so that you can come to it. Good. And that's it.
Yeah, this is very, very cool stuff, and sort of the your book, Meir, sensitizes people to what it takes to have well-being. But Kathy's is sort of the answer. I mean, one of the things that mature women can do to strive for well-being. So before we hang up, slide 22, Kath, and
I had that before. Yeah, I had it up.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So those should be posted to the chat bar as well.
I did. I put it in
good.
before. I put
Perfect.
the Amazon and it went out to all of them. Yes.
Okay. So the book is $30, and I think that's good. But
there's a discount. Yeah, there's a discount.
Oh yeah, actually on Amazon there's a discount down to 26 right now. Yeah, but Barnes and Noble is 30. So between the two, you probably want to choose Amazon. But the Kindle is also very affordable. It's 18. So buy Meir's book. It's a great book.
Well, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, you're going to find again the scientific literature about well-being, and you're going to find, scientific literature can be informative, but often dry. I really combine it with stories, my own stories, but mostly the stories of other people. And people are going to see themselves in those stories. They're going to learn from them. They're going to, for example, learn from a sociologist who interviewed very wealthy families in New York. And one woman said, well, I would say that we are in the middle. We don't have a private plane and we don't have a chauffeur. so we are kind of in the middle. There are people wealthier than us and there are people not as wealthy. And you say, oh boy,
she was talking about the 1%.
Yeah, somebody has to kind of sit her down to a good conversation.
Sure.
That she should have had with her parents many years ago. They said, aspire for more, but compare yourself to people who have a bit less than people who have more, and find more satisfaction in helping people who have less than in acquiring more.
Yes, and be happy with what you've got. Be grateful for what you've got.
Right.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
That was actually one of our shows. That was with George. I can't say his last name.
Jujarian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Okay. Well, I want to
thanks, Meir. This is great, and I hope
it
your
was
book
great.
sells. How many millions do you need it to sell to make you?
Oh, I'm
even
going to be very wealthy out of this.
Yeah,
So
I hope so.
But are you going to be happy?
More than minimum wage for each hour I spent writing it. But my joy
that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to write a book.
My joy wasn't writing it, hard as it was, and my joy is going to be in having people read it and reflect on their own financial and life well-being, and kind of catch themselves by seeing that life well-being is that portfolio, that nobody has it all perfect, and that they can find comfort in their own portfolio of domains in that life well-being, and they can find even more comfort in helping other people who can enjoy higher well-being if helped.
Well, I have a great suggestion, Meir. Now that you've got these well-being domains set up for et cetera, and one of them you said is for friends, and so I'm a friend now, right?
You are.
Okay.
Most definitely.
So where's this heading? You're focused. You're welcome to focus on my well-being.
Well, I can offer my empathy, and if you need some money, just write to me in private, and I'll send you some.
I'm in on that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Count me in. All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.